So I've got the team at Arcos Golf to put together some stats to show us what scratch handicappers are doing on the golf course, the mistakes they're making, and then in turn how to try to avoid these mistakes. Bearing in mind this is based around scratch index players. If you are a higher index, these are the same patterns for you, but maybe this video will allow you just to see how many mistakes they're actually making as well. You'll be making more if you use the tricks in this video. You can reduce the mistakes you are making and help you lower your scores. The first stat here is mind-boggling. So I would say this one's quite shocking. Bear in mind again, this is scratch golfers. This is a great example how I think this can happen. So let's talk a few around this approach. 100 yards in the fairway. I've got my yardage dialed in. I'm going to hit my shot and then we'll show you how to maybe hit a few more greens. I hope I've hit that green or this is going to be embarrassing. So I have hit the green, which is great. But what I want to do, just show you this green from above. And what we're going to notice that it's very narrow at the back here and it's very wide at the front. 100 yards in the fairway. I am literally one pace from missing this green, 2 and a bit paces from having to hit a chip. Let's rewind and see what some of the pitfalls are that make scratch handicappers miss greens at that percent. So as we go up through the handicaps, lots of people watching, you're missing more. So let's try again. In the fairway, same distance. Point number one that's super important, that allowed me to throw that ball basically to the furthest, almost the furthest distance I could send that ball, is having distance control systems and ideas with my clubs. So understanding how far each club goes, while sounds really basic, is absolutely crucial for this kind of shot, hitting the green more often. So on that shot, I played a 90-yard shot. It was 100 yards and I played a 90-yard shot and I got basically one of my longer tolerances of that 90-yard shot. So if I keep playing this shot, what we saw play out was one of my outliers. Majority of them are going to be landing in that slightly wider spot and then releasing down because there's more of a slope there to the hole. So I'm using a distance control system to try and make sure I hit more greens. Doesn't mean I hit every green, but I might hit a few percent more than the scratch handicapper, which I do see from my stats on Arcos. Next thing I'm doing is making sure I've done enough work on strike with this club. What we see as we go up through the handicaps is we see more mishits, more shots going half distance, where with scratch handicappers, their striking's not too bad, it's pretty good. So what are you doing to make sure that your strike's consistent with whatever club hits 100 yards? Do you have a good ball position? Are you using good use of pressures in the ground to make sure that you are staying or going left to try and get that ball then ground feeling of contact? Are you doing everything you can to make sure the strikes are up near 100% from this distance? They're never always going to be, but if you're losing shots from here, not through all the planning, but through poor strikes, got to be working on that. And number 3, being aware of your target. So let's pretend this pin now is at the front of the green and it's 100 yards. I'm not going to use my 90-yard shot. Common problem we see, pin at the front, people hitting shots in and just coming up short. They're not even that far away from the flag, but they're missing the green, which costs you shots down the line. If this pin was 100 yards, but it was at the front of the green, then I'm going to be playing my 105 to 110 default shot, knowing that it's going to go maybe 120 if I'm lucky, but it'll drop back to 95s, which will just get on the front edge if it's 5 yards on, those kind of ideas. You can hit more greens, you're never going to hit all of them. But having these items and systems in place from these distances is going to help you hit a few more, hitting a few more greens. Well, hitting more greens does lead to lower scores. Scratch golfers have a 22% chance of free putting from 35 foot. 35 foot! That's a pretty good shot. 11 to 12 paces away from the hole. If you're anything over 150 yards, hitting it that close is good. This needs fixing. That's scratch golfers. What do you think the higher handicappers are doing? And here leads one of the fundamental problems with golf practice I see with amateur golfers. They just do not practice distance control with putting enough. You can get your distance control on putting honed in really boiled down into less of a question on the next shot, it's going to have such a huge difference on how many 3-putts you have, how often, and in turn, your score. Give myself that one. To be fair, I'll give myself this one as well. So I'm going to take the flag out, and I'm going to put it one good pace short of the hole and just lie it down, giving me now from around 35 foot, bigger goal to try and hit into. I want to get past the flag and obviously around the hole. I don't mind going slightly past it or slightly short of it, but I'm trying to feed it now into that bigger gap, giving me that little bit more confidence of a target that's not so intimidating. Disappointed with this one, happy with this one. If I hit many of these when I practice, I am practicing distance control a whole lot more. That can be a simple way of changing the way you look at longer putts into a bigger target, which often inspires a bit more confidence, gets people panicking less about distance control. Let's try and improve that mental picture in your head. So what happens when you putt, you're blind, you're over the ball, looking at the ball. You have a few glances at the hole, but when you set over the ball, that picture, that mental image of distance is deteriorating fast. So doing some putts where you close your eyes and you're blind, so eyes open to look at distance, feel stroke, set to the ball, I'm lining up, eyes open. Now eyes close, I'm going to hit that, I'm going to say that's the short side of the hole. I'm not looking. And as you can see, it's just slightly this side of the hole. Trying to dial in that mental image with a stroke that's reliable, so you can just contain everything kind of in here. It's so powerful. Blind putt, then call. I reckon that's about right. Yeah, not bad at all. It's such a good way of building up that mental image. Bring that together with reality. Distance control might improve. At home practice, there's great systems like X-Putt. I've done full reviews on those. Let's try and include a link for those. I will. I've also got a discount code on X-Putt if you want to get that for a better price. It's a system that allows you to hit putts at home, and it simulates into the screen basically how far the putt's gone. You can change the stimp, the slope. You can really manipulate the whole thing to recreate whatever course you're going to play or play. It's a great way for keeping that distance control practice really tight at home so you're ready for the golf course. This is a huge one. Final one's amazing. This is an amazing stat. Maybe one now we're used to hearing, like we've heard this one a few times now, but I think we forget the value of it. So when we look at fairways here in scratch handicappers, it actually doesn't differ that much from all the handicap ranges. There are other real big outliers that do really matter in the driving world, and overvaluing the idea of hitting fairway often is one that holds golfers back. And I think sometimes what's heard or thought of when you think of this stat is that, so this hole here at Honiton, the 15th, it's a big dogleg round to the left. There's a bunker and a tree that you've got to get over, and the green is tricky. So hitting the fairway here has some value over hitting the rough, but it doesn't have the same value of me going more down the left than it does down the right, which literally cuts 40, 50 yards off the hole. And this is a great example of a hole which valuing hitting fairway is just not in my head. I just want it down on a certain line as far as possible. Now, but then I hear lots of people, what they will say is, yeah, but there's holes where if you don't hit the fairway, you're dead. On the holes where if you don't hit the fairway and you're dead, yes, that value goes up. But as a whole, as your baseline figure, I find there's often more holes where it doesn't matter so much if I hit fairway or not. It just matters how far down I go. Where on the ones where it's very obvious that you've got to hit fairway, you do what you have to do on those instances, and they're often tougher holes. Overvaluing fairway is a killer for score. So what does this mean? This means that I'm going to be looking at other fairways. Can I go down them? I'm going to be looking at certain groups of rough. If I hit it in there, what kind of shot do I have to the green? Does it make it easier for me to hit the green from there? Is it even rough? On lots of UK courses, there are areas where the rough just doesn't grow. You can go in there, no problem. Avoiding bunkers, they kill scores. So I know I can carry this bunker on the left, so I can take aim at it, even though it's making my chance of hitting fairway less. If I couldn't carry this bunker, I am pushing right. Like, I am not going in the bunker at all costs. Valuing fairway over hazards, rough, and what have you, it's dangerous, because at the end of the day, you will hit fairways. I'll tell you what you should be valuing. Boom, perfect. Straight over the bunker. You need to start valuing penalty shots. How many shots in a round does your driver cost you? Penalty shots. How many times does it go over the fence? How many times does it go in a hazard? How many times does your driver put you in a recovery position where you can't get to the green off the driver? So you hit the driver and then you have to chip out. They're the real numbers you should be valuing, because they're the ones that define good and better players, the worst players. Overvaluing fairway, it's something the scratch players aren't doing, but the high handicappers often are too much. I hear you, you have to sometimes, but not all the time. Remember, today's video is based on what scratch handicappers are doing, which I think is so shocking, because I think lots of high handicappers think they're doing these things as well, which leads to poor practice, poor picking of targets, poor use of clubs, and poor improvement strategies, because I think they're already achieving what they're obviously not. If you want to understand more about X-Putt that I mentioned earlier, this video is full review of X-Putt. This will get your distance control honed in.